I was thinking about the people who I used to work with a long time ago. Well, not even a long time ago, a few years ago. But some of them who I worked with 10, 20, 30 years ago. And they'd talk about the latest show that they were watching on TV, binge watching or whatever. And they'd say how crazy it was and how wild and weird and interesting it was. Yet if you said anything interesting about your own life, they'd give you a side eye and an eye roll, and they'd think you were fucking weird. But so long as weirdness was portioned out to them under the guise of a TV fiction, that was fine. But if you said anything that was remotely probably true, because you're telling them a story, that they'd think you were fucking weird. But what the weird thing is a lot of these shows in the writers' rooms that they were watching and thinking, oh great, they actually come from real stories. Like these writers in writers' rooms, they, like The Sopranos, was all their characters were based on real stories that the writers would mention. They go, hey, this weird thing happened in my life. Maybe this can apply to this character. Let's just do it and see what happens. And so all these weird stories that my co-workers loved were real life stuff. But if you said real life stuff, they'd think you were fucking weird. But so long as weirdness is given to them under the guise of fiction, it was fine. Which I find really interesting how people, they're scared of something that comes under the banner of truth. They're scared. They need truth under the banner of fiction. Otherwise, it's too much. And this is not long ago when I didn't have any audience. And now I'm still saying weird shit, but I'm just posting it online now. It's on my Instagram and TikTok to 140,000 people or whatever the follower count is now. Now they go, oh, that's fine now. It's okay because you've got an audience to say it. But for years and years, I was saying the same shit that I'm saying to a larger audience, just to myself. I was saying this weird shit to myself because there was no social media. And so I just come across like a fucking weird madman. And now I've got an audience, somehow it justifies it. Isn't that weird? If you're filming yourself or recording something, it's not weird. But if you're just doing it on your own, you're just a fucking escaped mental patient. But it's hard to have weird thoughts when you've got no audience, because it doubly makes you feel like a weirdo. There's no one to laugh with, no one to bounce it off or get that sort of weird instant feedback that you can get. And I guess for 30 years, I felt like, because I didn't have any audience, there's no feedback. You're a weirdo in the eyes of so many. And having an audience is very recent for me, probably over 50,000 and since 2022 or whatever. So it's only been 2 years or some shit. And so I still have the mentality that I'm just a fucking sideways nutcase half the time. And I forget, like all the nice feedback, I'm almost throwing it in the bin, in the rubbish bin of my mind. And I don't mean to. Like I'll go, yeah, that's nice. But a lot of my thoughts seemed like I was off my face for 30 years. And so I've still got the momentum of that feeling that I'm an actual weirdo, and my thoughts have little to no value. I've been doing it for so long, and it's not that I didn't care that people thought that I was a fucking weirdo, but I had to do it. It didn't make any other sense. It didn't make sense to do it any other way, to think life or do life any other way. I tried other ways, and I ended up finding myself on a work toilet, like in despair, or at 3 a.m. in the morning in despair. And I had to try and do it my own way. There was no other way to do it. Otherwise, I'd have just been out of here. It's funny now, having an audience for about 2 years, all of a sudden I've got to keep reminding myself, hey, all this stuff that you did for 30 years, it's not weird. All these thoughts, look, people are actually responding to them and people like what you're doing. And against all the bullshit that I got for 30 years of doing this shit. And I guess this goes back to that recent cartoon / bunch of words that I wrote. Smuggle your weirdness through years of the cult of sensibles: school, job, family, and you'll find yourself waiting on the other side with a gift for the world. So I wrote that based on my own experience. Yeah, for so long I smuggled my bullshit. I didn't mask it like some people are saying, oh, is this a new word for masking? I hate when people try to pathologize stuff with fancy new psychological terms. Like it's almost like one-upsmanship. It's weird. All I'm talking about is when I'm saying smuggle your weirdness, it's like a candle and the wind's going to keep trying to blow it out because you're going to be called weird. And you've got to protect that candle through years or decades. And especially if there's no audience to bolster your special kind of strangeness up. And sticking with all this weird imagery of being mental, like when I'm writing something, I feel like I'm putting myself in a straitjacket and I've got to wriggle myself out of it. And by almost starting off with these difficult premises or ideas, I feel like then I'm going to, okay, here I go. I'm going to try and write myself out of this, try and make it make sense to me and write my way out of it, then share it with people. Almost, maybe it can be a map, maybe it can be instructions on how to take off the same straitjacket, I don't know. But I feel like that's how I write. And often I end up stuck in the straitjacket. Like most of the time I do. It's like, fuck, I'm stuck in it again. But yeah, back on smuggling your weirdness through years of the cult of sensible, I almost feel like it's not a choice. I think when you can't not do something, then you have to do it. When you have to frame something in the negative like that, you know that's the thing you're supposed to do. I remember at one point, I was working at Myer back in my early 20s, mid-20s. Then I ended up working in corporate in my mid to late 30s, and I remember seeing an old manager outside this corporate job I was working at, and she used to manage me at Myer 10 years earlier when I was 20-something. And she said, Darby, it's so good to see that you have a job and that you're working. So she thought I was fucking insane. She thought I was just some airy-fairy artist type working in retail in Myer. I have so many other random stories like that where people just thought I was just a flaky bullshit weirdo who had no hope. And that was just the story of my life for 30 years, from parents to bosses, to colleagues. And it's like, oh, fucking hell. Like I had to smuggle that weirdness through so many hoops of eye rolls and side eyes, and the way that they can slowly murder you and fucking chokehold your spirit and almost make you want to conform and do the right thing in inverted commas. But I couldn't help it. I felt like some cheeky fucker that's inside of me just went, no, fuck that shit. I'm just keep doing your weird shit. Who cares? And it was only lucky that social media turned up and gave me the ability to have a chance at finding an audience. And so I was just lucky that it might have never happened. I might have just had to be a zero, an audience of one for the rest of my life. But yeah, it's weird. And I don't know. This all could go away as well. But at least I've had 2 years in my life where I've had some sort of interesting feedback loops that I never had before. It was just me, myself, and I doing my own bullshit thing. Anyway, if you'd like to leave a review of wherever you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, that'd be amazing. Also, I haven't just started. I posted my first thing 10 years ago, but I've started putting more stuff on my YouTube channel. I'll put that in the link if you're keen. Thanks.